Good afternoon, everyone. I'm J. Lenora Bressler, and this is the Saturday of Holy Week edition of the Bible Delight in the Details. We've been going day by day, telling you exactly what happened to Jesus on every day of Holy Week, starting with Palm Sunday. And now we're on Saturday, the Saturday before the Resurrection, Sunday after Friday, Good Friday. What is it that we know happened on Saturday? Well, actually, we know nothing about what happened to any of Jesus's followers. It is absolutely silent. However, we do know what the Jewish leaders were up to, breaking their own law and doing something that they were always criticizing Jesus for. They were breaking the Sabbath. Now, let me explain how I know this. When you read the gospel accounts, they talk a lot about the day of preparation, which can be confusing because there's 2 days of preparation during this particular Holy Week. There was the day of preparation immediately before Passover. That would have been Thursday, running up to Thursday sundown. That was the day of preparation for Passover. But every week had a day of preparation the day before the regular Sabbath. So what happened here was that there was the day of preparation for the Passover. Then they had Passover. Then it happened that there was a day of preparation for the regular weekly Sabbath, and then the Sabbath occurred. So what we know is this. It's very interesting. It says that we're reading in Mark verse 42. And when evening had come, since it was the day of preparation, that is, the day before the Sabbath, Joseph of Arimathea, a respected member of the council, who had also himself was also himself looking for the kingdom of God, took courage and went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Jesus was surprised to hear that he should have already died. And on summoning the centurion, he asked whether he was already dead. And when he learned the centurion was dead, he granted the corpse to Joseph. And Joseph brought a linen shroud, and taking him down, wrapped him in the linen shroud and laid him in a tomb. We know from other Gospels that all of this had to occur before sundown, and indeed did. The two criminals that were crucified on either side of Christ had their legs broken. The gospel accounts tell us to hurry their deaths because they had to get those corpses off of the crosses by sundown because the Sabbath was coming up. Now, then we look at Matthew, and we find in Matthew 27, starting at verse 62, the next day, that is the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said, "Sir, we remember how that impostor said while he was still alive, after 3 days I will rise. Therefore, order a guard at the tomb." So interestingly, listen, it said the next day, that is after the day of preparation. Well, the day after the day of preparation is the regular weekly Sabbath. You might say, well, this is all interesting, Eleanor, but what are you getting at? I'm getting at a couple things. Why is it that God did nothing, as far as we know, on Saturday? Because he was observing the Sabbath. What were his people doing? They were observing the Sabbath. Remember, there were all kind of rules that the Pharisees had really gotten after Jesus about you let your disciples eat and walk and heal and do all kind of things on the Sabbath. And he was explaining to them the Sabbath is for man. It's for resting of man. It was for mankind to give them rest. What are the people of God doing? They are truly observing the Sabbath. They're not going anywhere. You couldn't even walk more than 3/5 of a mile You had to stay very close to home. In fact, let's be honest, today you and I are probably observing that Holy Saturday the most like the original Christians did in Holy Week than we ever will again, because we're all confined to our homes. We're not going anywhere. We're not doing anything. We're relying on food that we've already prepared or is already in the house. But what are the Jewish leaders doing? They are breaking the Sabbath that they claim to think was so important, and they're going and doing business, the business of trying to keep Jesus in the tomb. But it's more than that. Jesus died on the 6th day of the week. If you go back to Genesis, that is the day of man, because God created man on the 6th day. So in the Bible, 6 is identified as man. He was created on the 6th day. On the 7th day, God rested, right? So on the Sabbath, God is resting, literally. Now, but here's where it gets very interesting. In Revelation 21:5, on the throne, God says that he is making all things new. You think about all the times that Jesus preached that he was creating a new covenant, about how you can't put new wine in old wineskins, all of that. Where is he getting all that? He's getting that from a messianic prophecy from Isaiah chapter 65. All that stuff about the new wine is actually in 65, starting at verse 8. But I want to call your attention to Isaiah 65:17. For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former things shall not be remembered or come to mind. But be glad and rejoice forever in what I create. And behold, I create Jerusalem to be a joy, and her people to be a gladness. I will rejoice in Jerusalem and be glad in my people. And no more shall be heard the sound of weeping and the cry of distress. And it ends with that beautiful line that everyone knows. The wolf and the lamb shall graze together, the lion shall eat straw like the ox, and dust shall be the serpent's food. They shall not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain. When Jesus got up the next day, that was the 8th day. It's not just the name of a gospel singing group. The early church understood that the 8th day was the new creation. Jesus really was recreating reality. We live in the 8th day. And the early church understood this. We have forgotten this. We don't understand what the word 8th day, what the term means. But people in Christians throughout the centuries have. If you look at the baptistries, going all the way through the 1800s, you will see that most of them have 8 sides. That's because when you are baptized, you are coming into the new reality, the new creation of the 8th day. So Jesus is resting because he is God. He rests on the 7th day, and behold, he's making all things new. We live in a new creation of the 8th day. It's glorious. So rest today, confident that you are about to enter into the 8th day, the new creation. I'm J. Lenora Bressler. Visit me for a Sunday school lesson tomorrow on what Jesus did when he got up. Have a great Holy Saturday. Bye now.